Hello class, today we are looking at our finding unknown sides in right triangles practice. So we're asked for each question to label our sides A, B, and C, substitute our values into the Pythagorean equation, which of course is our a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then to solve that equation for the missing side, showing all solving steps and rounding our answer to the nearest tenth if needed. This is a calculator unit, so I do have my calculator available for me to assist with any calculations. The first thing we want to label in each triangle is side C, and since we don't know all three sides, we have to use the definition that side C is the side across from the right angle. So in question A, I'm going to draw that arrow through the right angle box, and I can see that side C is actually my unknown side. Once I've got side C labeled, I can label sides A and B, and which one is which here doesn't matter. The important one is labeling side C correctly. Next, I want to substitute these values into my Pythagorean equation. My Pythagorean equation is that a squared plus b squared should be equal to c squared. And I'm going to plug in the values that I said a is 10 in this triangle, so 10 squared. I said b is 24, so 24 squared in the equation. And since I don't know what c is, I'll just leave it be as c squared. Now on my left side, I have some calculations I can complete. So 10 squared is 10 times 10, which is 100, plus my 24 squared would be 24 times 24. You can either use the squared button on your calculator to find out that that is 576, or of course you know that squared means 24 times 24, and you can just multiply those out to get that 576. On the right side, I still have my c squared. I'm going to further simplify the left side by adding, so my 576 plus 100, of course, gives me 676 as the value equal to c squared. Now at this stage, there's no other simplification I can do. I have to solve to isolate my c. Right now, c has an exponent of 2 applied to it, a square. And we know that what will cancel out a square is applying a square root, because our square root and our square root will cancel, leaving us with just c. However, just like any time we're solving an equation, what I do to the right side, I must also do to the left side. So I'm going to apply that square root to both sides. I get that c will be the square root of 676. So on your calculator, you can apply your square root to your 676, and you end up with your 26 as your value of c. We want to make sure that we state our answer, including correct units. So our unknown side is 26 centimeters in this particular question. In question B, we're going to begin the same way. We're going to start by drawing our arrow through our right angle box, and that will point at side C. In this case, we do actually know what side C is. It's 24. Now, your other two sides are A and B. Again, it doesn't really matter which one is which. I would like to call the known side B, and that leaves my unknown side as A. Let's substitute our numbers into our equation. So we know our equation is a squared plus b squared should be equal to c squared. And let's plug our numbers in where they go. I don't know what a is, that's an unknown side, so I'll just leave it as a squared. I do know that b is 10, so I'll go ahead and plug 10 into my b part of my equation. And I know that c is 24. So I'll plug 24 into the c part of the equation. Similar to the last question, we'll simplify by calculating the squared values. So 10 squared, like in the last question, is 100, and 24 squared, like in the last question, is 576. Now in this case, we need to do two things to isolate our a. Our a is being squared. It's also being added by 100. So we need to undo both of those things in order to get our a by itself. The first thing we're going to do is undo addition, since when solving we work in reverse bedmass order, and therefore addition is the first thing to undo. We'll undo adding 100 by subtracting 100 from both sides. That'll give us a squared is equal to 476. Next thing to do is to cancel out that squared. Like in the last question, we're going to apply a square root to our a squared to cancel out the exponent. And what we do to one side, we have to do the other. So we'll apply a square root to the other side as well. That gives me that a will be the square root of 476, and I can calculate that value on my calculator. So on my version of my calculator, I have to type in my number first, and then hit my square root button, and I get my 21.81, We're asked to round to the nearest tenth, so we'll say 21.8 centimeters is the length of our unknown side A. Start the next question by labeling. We're going to draw our arrow through our box. It points at side C, which in this case we do know is 15. I like to label A as the unknown side then, and B would be the remaining side of 9. Let's fill in our equation of A squared plus B squared should be equal to C squared, and we'll fill in the numbers that we know. I don't know what the length of A is, so I'll just leave it in the equation as A squared. I do know that B is 9, so B squared becomes 9 squared. And I do know that C is 15, so C squared becomes 15 squared. I guess we'll put brackets over here as well. Let's simplify the parts that we can calculate. So our 9 squared is 9 times 9, which is 81. And on the other side, our 15 squared is a perfect square that we know. That is 225. Similar to the last question, our A has an exponent and is being added, so we need to undo both of those things. We're going to begin by undoing the addition by subtracting 81 from both sides. When we do that, our plus 81 and our minus 81 will cancel out on the left side, leaving us with our A squared. On the other side, we have 225 take away 81. And of course, it is a calculator unit, so feel free to do that on your calculator to get your 144. Finishing up this question, we need to square root both sides to cancel out the square on our A. And we get our A is equal to the square root of 144, which we know is 12. So we'll finish up and put our units. A is 12 centimeters. In question D, we'll again start by labeling our sides. We know that side C will be across from the right angle, and in this case, our side C is our unknown. Our other two sides are A and B in any order, so I'm going to call A 6 meters and B 5 meters. Let's go ahead and fill in our equation, which is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And let's fill our numbers in. We know that A from our diagram is 6, so A squared becomes 6 squared. We know that B from our diagram is 5, so B squared becomes 5 squared. Don't know what C squared is, so I'm going to leave it alone in my equation. Let's simplify the left side there. 6 squared is 6 times 6, so 36. 5 squared is 5 times 5, so 25. On the right side, we still don't know what C is, so we'll leave it as C squared. We'll continue simplifying by adding our 36 and our 25. So again, no harm in using your calculator for that if you'd like. And you get 61 is equal to your C squared. To isolate our C, we need to undo the squared exponent. To do that, we're going to apply a square root to both sides of our equation. To cancel out that square, we'll be left with just a C on the right side. On the left side, we need to do the square root of 61. So applying a square root to my 61, I get 7.81. We're asked to round to the nearest tenth, so again, that'll be 7.8. We'll include our units of centimeters, meters in this particular question. On the back, similar questions. We'll again start by labeling our sides. Going through our right angle box, we'll point at side C, which in this case we do know. I don't know this little side over here, which I'm going to call A, and I do know this side here, which is then B. Let's fill in our equation that A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And let's fill in the numbers that we know. I don't know what A is, so I'll leave that as A squared in my equation. I do know that B is 24, so I have to square that. And I know that C is 25, and I have to square that as well. Let's calculate those squared numbers. So 24 squared is 576, as we saw on the earlier page. And 25 squared is 625 on the right side of the wall, 625. Our A here is being exponented by 2. It's not a real word. It's being raised to a power of 2. And it's being added by 576. We're going to need to undo both of those things. We'll start by undoing the addition by subtracting 576 from both sides. So on my calculator, I do my 625, take away my 576, and that'll give me 49 is equal to my a squared. To cancel out the squared on my a, I'm going to apply a square root to both sides. A square root and a square cancel out, leaving me with just a. On the right side, square root of 49 we know is 7. We'll include our units of kilometers, so a in this case is 7 kilometers. In question F, we're again going to start by labeling our sides. The arrow will point to side C, which in this case is unknown. The other two sides are A and B in any order. I'm going to call A2 and B6. I know that I will have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A in this case is 2, and 2 squared is 4 in my equation. I'm going to have my a squared plus b squared would be the next part of my equation. I know that b is 6 in this question, and 6 squared is 36. And on the other side, I don't know what c is, so I'm just going to leave it as c squared in the equation. Let's add the left side. 4 plus 36 is 40, and that will be equal to c squared. To cancel out the exponent of 2, I'm going to need to apply a square root to both sides. My square root and my square on my right side will cancel out to leave me with just c. And on the left side, I'll have to do the square root of 40. So I'll do my square root of 40. I get 6.32. And since I'm asked to round to the nearest tenth, I'm going to say 6.3 kilometers is equal to c. Last couple here, again, I'm going to start by labeling my triangle. So side C in this question is unknown. I'm going to label my A and my B. Let's fill in our equation. Our A squared is going to be 3 squared, which is 9 in this question, plus our B squared is going to be 5 squared, which is 25. And my C squared, I don't know in this question, so it'll just be C squared. 9 plus 25 is 34, which will be equal to c squared. Applying a square root to both sides will give us that just c on the right side is equal to the square root of 34. And we'll calculate that. Our square root of 34 is about 5.8. Include our units of centimeters for our missing c there. Finishing up, we'll again label our sides. Draw your arrow through your right angle. The arrow points to side C, which in this case we do know. I like to make side A the unknown side in these situations, and that leaves side B to be 9.1 feet. Set up our equation that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. And we'll fill in our numbers where they go. A I don't know, so I'm going to leave it as a squared. B I do know is 9.1. And I need to square that. And on the other side, I know what c is, it's 12.4, and I need to square that. So let's do those calculations. 9.1 squared is 82.81. I obviously don't know what a is, so it's just going to stay as a squared for now. And on the other side of the equation, my 12.4 squared is 153.76. To solve for a, I need to undo the addition. The opposite of adding 82.81 is subtracting 82.81 from both sides. So I'll do that. And I get 70.95 on the right side. On the left side, my plus and my minus cancels out, and I have just a squared. To finish up, I need to square root both sides to cancel out the square on my a. And on the other side, square root of 70.95 is 8.42. So rounding to the nearest tenth is 8.4 units feet. So I hope that's helped you with your different types of problems when we're solving basic triangles using the Pythagorean theorem.